places I remember all my life. Though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some have gone and some remain. All these places had their moments. With lovers and friends I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life I've loved them all. But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you. And these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. Though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life I love you more. Never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them.
That's what happens every hour on the AM shift. We check in. Here we are at power plant number 2. Power plant 1 and 2 tie line. Transformer bank 2. Here is the switchboard that this switchboard operator operates. There's a supervisory control cabinet. You can hear those clickety things clacking away. There's my desk. And there's where I sit, right there. Now it's 5 minutes after 2 in the morning, and we have a 1.4847 on our digital chart. The pressure we're running is 70 pounds. There you see 155 pounds on our governor tank.
Today I'm at Fairmont Reservoir Tower. In about a couple minutes we'll show you the blast of this tower. Today is May 19th. It's about 1:33 and the blast was taken a while ago at about 12.
Just listen if you hear it. There you go. That's all there is. That tower is no more, Seth. Yeah. There you can see the tower laying down by Jonathan. Here we see some spectators behind us. Okay, here we are at the tower. That's where it used to stand. Good evening and welcome to the Channel 3 News. Today's top story, LA area hydro power plant blows up, interrupting power to over 44,000 customers. Also, Fernando Vanzuelas pitches a perfect game. For these and other stories, we join you now live for Channel 3's News with Seth Hopkinson.
Good evening, this is Seth Hopkinson welcoming you to the 3 News. Department of Water and Power's Hydroelectric Power Plant 1, Generator 1A, short-circuited with the ground, causing huge bellows of black smoke into the air. It was generating 25 million watts of power at the time of the short circuit. It was on a 1-year test and had just been installed October 22, 1984. And now we bring you live coverage at the scene in our mobile test unit. Seth Hopkinson, the 3 News at Powerhouse 1. We are on the scene of where the generator burned up its coil. Now we're going to interview one of the operators, Bill Fox, who is here at the time. All right, what happened? What exactly happened here?
At approximately 2:48 this afternoon, generator 1A relayed off the line. Looking around at our alarm boards to determine what had happened, we had an alarm indicating a stator ground. Looking out the window at the unit, we seen a cloud of smoke rising through the ceiling. We knew we had a immediate problem with the unit, but not just what exactly had happened. We shut the unit down, went out, checked around to look for fire. There was no fire in the machine. We had a crew come in, disassemble it to find out what had happened. And at that time, they discovered one of the stator coils had relayed over from a spot in the insulation that had failed. And there's approximately 13,800 volts in this machine, and it just went to ground and blew a hole in the stator, and it's major damage to the machine.
Do you know the exact cause of this?
At this time, we know that from the hole in the stator that this is what happened, and that it's going to take a number of months for repairs, probably up to 4 or 5 months.
Have you had a lot of trouble with this unit since it was installed?
Yes, this is a recent unit. It's been in less than a year. We've had a number of other problems. We've had problems in the past indicating that there was a potential for this happening because of the extreme heat in the coils. The Japanese engineers that here to make the repairs have got a new ventilation system they're going to install to make the machine run cooler, and they're sending a crew of Japanese workers from Japan to do this work.
Thank you for visiting us on the 3 News. And now, back to your recent program.
Thank you for joining us here live tonight by video cassette, of course. Power plant number 1. Thank you very much for joining us for this special.
LA's #1 choice for news. Fox 11, 10 o'clock news.
Good evening, I'm Jeff Michael.
And I'm Susan Hirosuna. 3 days and 3 nights after being driven from their homes by a brush fire, residents of Green Valley are being allowed to return to their homes north of Saugus. Some are finding only ashes. Tonight, the so-called copper fire, now estimated at more than 23,000 acres, is about half contained. Cheryl Kahn was there as the last residents went home.
When fire erupted in the remote hills and canyons of Saugus Wednesday, authorities knew they'd have a major battle on their hands. Extreme heat and dry brush, a nasty combination. Before long, the fire had spread for miles. 7 homes were completely destroyed, many others damaged, and 1,000 people evacuated. Residents were allowed to return home today.
Just pull up right over behind this car.
Thank you.
At the Ullman Ranch, a miracle of sorts, the fire lapped at the edges of their property.
It jumped the road right about at our place. Right here is where it jumped to this side of the road. And then it caught our great vineyard on fire right there and this brush behind the barn.
And they didn't have time to leave. The couple and their son stayed put, watching out for their championship horses, like the horse Antonio Banderas rode in the Mask of Zorro, named Duke.
He was running around and, it stresses them out. They go off their feet a little.
And so is he okay now? Does he seem all right?
Yeah, he seems just fine.
Their ranch is fine too. But all the way up the hills, a charred landscape, still sizzling with heat and occasional puffs of smoke. Another miracle here, homes where DWP workers live with their families, completely untouched, while all around them, this. When Linda Hopkinson first saw her house in one piece,
it was relief, but then all around us, it's just devastation.
We used to go for walks down, there's like a valley over there with a bunch of trees in it, and that's all gone. And it's pretty creepy. It looks like the moon or something out of a horror movie.
Residents say it is a miracle more homes weren't burned to the ground, but that miracle was helped along by firefighters.
They came from everywhere. You wouldn't, San Diego, all the way up above San Francisco.
Without them, residents say, this would have been so much worse. In Saugus, Cheryl Kahn, Fox 11 News.
Yeah, I was just going to show you these dials right here. This is about the only original equipment that's still here on the bench board. This digital right here, this shows us the flows of the water going through the plant. Now, when I first started here, we had none of this, no readings at all. So you just ran your generators according to how much water was going through the unit, so many megawatts per CFS for the water. But these meters here, this controls the bouquet valves. That's one of the original meters from the old bench board. And when I was first coming up here, the old timers, they showed us how to operate these things. So just wanted to show you that. This is the new technology, all electronic. And then this is the old manual where you still do it by hand, So anyway, that's just some of the progress over the years. I was just going to let you know, this here's an old superset. And when I started in 1970 in RSA down in downtown Los Angeles, I worked at RSA. And I used to actually turn on the street lights in LA. We had a street light schedule. And we had to use a superset, kind of like this here, and we would turn on each street in LA, like Broadway, Los Angeles Avenue, Main Street, all these different streets by superset. In those days, the stations were all manned, but we still turned on the street lights in downtown LA. Nowadays, of course, it's automated. But this superset right here, this is PP2. And when I first started up here to PP1, when I got the bid up here, I was still starting and stopping units. I could switch the buses, I could turn on units, all from PP1 by remote control. We used to run Powerhouse 2 by remote. This thing was fully 100% functional. And so that was kind of interesting, but as things get automated, they change. But this was a mechanical, we could actually push buttons and start units and so on and so forth. So that was kind of interesting. But I used to actually turn the street lights on in LA in 1970. We were doing that just like this, just push buttons and turn the street lights on. So, all right. This here is from 1900. They used to have telephones where they actually cranked and ring the bells. These are different rings. And I used to have to crank a telephone to answer it, and you'd ring these certain bells here. And this here was what we call open wire. Everything went from Mojave all the way to downtown Los Angeles, and at PP1 all these different bells had different rings to them. So the load dispatcher had a ring, and if it was somebody, one of the wives calling for their husbands, this might be from the flats. Powerhouse 2 is a ring here. And I actually operate all this, and that's technology, how it's changed. If you look inside of here, that's still the 1900 wiring from the 1900s. Has been that way. And I actually still operate this thing up until about 1992, was the last time we operated the old system. The load dispatcher was the last telephone that went on automation, where we actually answered over the computer there. But yeah, this is still in service up until about 1991. And you see the old telephone batteries up here. We used to have the communications, kept changing those old batteries. They'd come out and service those things about once or twice a year. And but it's still wired in here. Some of this stuff we still use today because it's too much work to rip it all out. But anyway, that's still there. And of course, most of it's all disconnected. But that's that's the old 1900 panel still there. Hello there. It's good to say goodbye that I'm retiring, and after all these years, 44 years and about 3 months. And it's been a very nice career. We ended up at PP1 probably about 1981. I seen them put in Unit 1, and we saw them put in Unit 5, and it was a real pleasure. I got to work with a lot of the old-timers, and now I'm the old-timer, but you didn't know it. You started when I was pretty much 22 years old, right out of high school. So I started on June 1st, 1970. And so you don't know that years are just going to go by. It just goes by 1, 2, 3, 4, you know. But 44 years, it's time to hang up the hat and call it quits. But it's been really good, and I hope you guys all have a good experience, you that still have to work. All right, bye-bye, thanks.
I love you more